Hi everyone. Well, today I am going to take you through a little bit of a different video. I'm not going to lie, life has been a little bit crazy lately with renovations, which you may hear some stuff going on in the background. I do apologise for that. And I just started a new job, so I'm settling into that. I'm still getting over this cough, which is driving me crazy. But I just thought it'd be fun to do a quick video. It may be quick, it may not be. I want to take you through some ideas for fragrances if you're going to be buying things for Christmas. Now, I do have some fragrances here. Some of them are budget, some of them are not so budget, and I do have a couple of other options as well if you want to err on the side of caution. So when people ask me about buying fragrances for Christmas, it used to really stress me out because, you know, fragrance is so subjective, and there are fragrances that are real crowd pleasers, that's true. But it's very hard if you're wanting to get someone something a little bit different from what they already have. It's hard because you don't know how they're going to react to something new. So generally I would say try and stick to things that you already know that they like, or at the very least, if you want to give them something different, at least try and understand what it is about that fragrance that they already have and like that they like, so that you can try and, I don't know, find something along a similar line but maybe with a little bit of difference. As I mentioned, I do have some not so budget options in this list, but I just generally don't recommend forking out a lot of money for a perfume for somebody as a gift if you just have no idea if they're going to like it or not. Unless you happen to be in a jurisdiction where they accept returns on fragrances that have been opened. Where I live, it's very difficult to return a fragrance once that cellophane is off the box or once it's been opened and sprayed. But I do know that in the US, it's a bit more common for, you know, stores like Saks, Fifth Avenue, for example, to accept returns even once you've opened it. I have just gone through my collection and I've picked out fragrances that I think are fairly crowd pleasing and the ones that I consider to be kind of all-rounders that I can wear anytime and, you know, feel confident and feel good in those fragrances. i.e., I don't feel like they're particularly challenging in any way, shape or form. However, the caveat to that is that if there is a sort of composition or an accord or a note that somebody is really opposed to, then, and if that appears in one of these fragrances, then there's a good chance they won't like it. So my advice is try and do some research if you can, and try not to spend too much money on something that you aren't sure that they like if you're getting them something new. Or we can go with some of the other options, which I'm going to talk about too. So let's get into it. I will also say just quickly that I don't have many male marketed fragrances in this list. I do have a couple. I don't have that many male marketed fragrances in my collection, not because I don't wear them. I actually used to wear mostly male marketed fragrances. But these days, if you look at my collection as a whole, it's mostly fragrances that aren't really marketed to any gender. So they're mostly unisex, and I think all fragrances are unisex anyway. I do think that some can lean masculine or lean feminine in the more traditional forms of how fragrances are marketed, but generally I just think wear what you want. First up is a male marketed fragrance, having said all of that, and this is Eau Sauvage Eau de Toilette by Christian Dior. I really like this one. I picked this one because I wanted something that was a bit lighter, a bit fresher. It's very aromatic. You do get the sort of herbal notes in here. It's sort of citrusy and herbally green in the opening, very fresh and zingy, and then it dries down to a really lovely sandalwood or a woody type of base. It's very soft, not too sharp, and not too dark either. So I really enjoy this one. Matt quite likes to wear it. It's really good for hot weather, I find, but you could wear it pretty much any time. The only thing is the longevity on this is not that great, but I really enjoy it, so I'll just respritz it if I need to. So that is Eau Sauvage EDT, fairly new one to my collection. The next one is one of my favorites. This is Dior Homme Intense. This is a ambery iris based fragrance. It is a little bit aromatic as well. It's got lavender in there. It's just so warming, but not too warm. I think, you know, it can actually be worn all year round. It does feel a little bit more like a nighttime fragrance, but it's just a little bit sweet, a little bit powdery from that iris, a little bit aromatic. It's also a little bit woody, but really that iris is the star of the show. And I would say probably more suited to nighttime and possibly the cooler months as opposed to the warmer months. But I mean, I wear it all year round, so I don't care, even in the height of summer. I don't necessarily wear it in the height of summer during the day, but I confess I do wear it mostly in the cooler months. But it's gorgeous. It's really, really nice. Unless somebody really, really hates iris in any shape or form, I'd struggle to think of anyone who wouldn't at least like it a little bit. The next one is Prada La Femme. This is a fairly new acquisition. I also have the Intense version, which I got first, but I really enjoy this one as well. And I think that this one is the more crowd-pleasing version. This is a strange one. When I first smelled this years ago, I remembered thinking that it smelled very clean and very fresh, and it does. But I consequently sort of got it in my head that this was like a white, musky kind of fragrance. But actually, it's lots of florals, tropical florals too, like frangipani, ylang ylang, tuberose. But even though you've got those sort of heavy-hitting tropical florals, the fragrance all over is quite crisp and clean. So there must be some white musk in there as well. Maybe there's some woods. I think there might actually be some vetiver in the base. Maybe not so much woods, but more sort of vetiver. There's a beeswax note in here as well, which it kind of just gives it a texture more than anything. You kind of sort of do get the beeswax, but it's not super sweet or honeyed or anything like that. So it's very interesting. It just smells really clean. This is one of the few fragrances that I actually get complimented on from time to time if I wear it. People notice it, I think. It's just really inoffensive and fresh smelling, and I think most people generally just kind of enjoy the smell of this fragrance. So that is Prada La Femme. So the next one is a fairly new acquisition for me. I only picked this up a couple of days ago. This is a little baby bottle of number 5 Low. Now, I got this because my bottle of Eau Premiere is starting to get very low, and I'm knowing that I was going to have to replace it. But before I decided to replace it with an upgraded big bottle, I decided to give this one a go. And the reason is because when I bought number 5 Eau Premiere, I bought it when I went into an airport Chanel store. And the reason I didn't sort of really gravitate towards this one at the time was because the opening is a bit more citrusy, whereas in Eau Premiere, I think it's more florals and woods. But as it turns out, Eau Premiere is sweeter, I think, than this one. So this one dries down to a really inoffensive, powdery, dry finish with, you know, those classic number 5 aldehydes, but they're not super heavy. This is, I think, I can understand now why people talk about this one a lot more than they talk about Eau Premiere, because I think actually in the dry down, this is probably the more approachable wear out of all of the Chanel number 5 range. So I chose this one for this list because I actually think that maybe this is the more approachable one, and it's also less sweet than Eau Premiere, so it's probably more unisex than the Eau Premiere, even though I think they're both totally unisex. But just be careful, if you're buying this as a gift, you might want to make sure that the person is okay with Chanel No. 5, because at the end of the day, if they hate Chanel No. 5, they're probably not going to love this anyway. Although I say that, but that's how I got into Chanel No. 5, by trying Eau Premiere. The other upside to maybe going for a No. 5 for a Christmas gift, if you hurry, because I think stocks are starting to run low, is that it is the 100-year anniversary for this fragrance. So there are some sort of fancier bottles that you can get. If you think that the person you're buying for would appreciate sort of a bottle that's a bit more special, or a limited edition bottle, then I would hurry up, because stocks are running low. The next one was a bit of a toss-up. I really wanted to put a Guerlain fragrance in this list. And these two, the one I picked ultimately was Champs-Élysées Eau de Toilette. I don't know what the EDP smells like, because I've never actually tried the EDP. But I do really love this one. This is a magnolia based fragrance, so it's quite floral, but it has this fresh, I think there's some sort of soft, fresh citruses in there, if that makes any sense. Citruses obviously are usually quite crisp, and there is that sort of freshness to this, but there's no sort of, it's not sharp like a citrusy fragrance would be. So those florals really sort of round it out and make it very smooth and quite creamy actually. And it does make me think of skin lotion, a really nice, high-end, posh kind of skin lotion. So I think this is a fairly safe buy, unless somebody really hates florals, because it is quite florally. The alternative to that one that I thought about including was Guerlain's Mon Guerlain. I mean, I personally would not be upset if somebody gave this to me as a gift. It's not exactly to my taste, because it is quite sweet, but that lavender opening is really zingy and quite fresh smelling. It does dry down to be a bit sweeter than I would probably prefer, but this is a crowd pleaser. People love it for a reason. So I would, for that reason, it might be a relatively safe blind buy. But just, you know, keep in mind that it's an aromatic, fruity floral. There is lavender in the top. The lavender is very detectable, and if somebody doesn't like lavender, that might be a problem. It is also very sweet and fruity and floral. So that's all I'm going to say about that one. The next one might be considered to be a little bit of an odd one out. This is Eau d'un Amissante by Clarins. I don't know if I said that right, by the way. This is a little splash bottle. I don't know if it comes in sprayers or if it always comes in a splash. It's kind of a weird one. It's kind of like a body splash or something. It's very herbal, very aromatic. I think it's meant to be a chypre. It's just very different, but I really like this. I've liked this since I was a teenager, and I've never bought it until now. It's one of those ones that I always sort of wanted to pick up and then just never did, and I'd always smell it when I went into the store. And then finally recently I just went, I'm just going to grab it. Somebody was selling this cheap in a Facebook forum, so I decided to grab it. And I would classify this as being sort of like a nice after shower sort of splash on type of thing. And then, you know, later on you might follow it up with a fragrance if you want. Otherwise it's just one of those really refreshing sort of things that, so especially if it's a hot night and you don't know what to put on, it's a really nice sort of refreshing, clean, herbal, aromatic fragrance. And I really enjoy this one. And you can normally get some pretty good deals with Clarins, you know, just getting one of those gift packs or something where this is usually included at Christmas time. So, you know, you might be able to pick up some other goodies as well along with this. Last in the sort of mid-range budget category is Bulgari's Eau Vert. I only have a little mini of this. In fact, I have many minis of this and no actual full bottle. I used to have the Eau Vert Extreme years and years ago. That's been discontinued now. That was my favorite personally, but I do enjoy this one as well. This is a green tea fragrance. I'm pretty sure everyone's familiar with it by now. It's been on the market for quite some time. Another really easy wearing, easy to like type of fragrance. Inoffensive, can wear it for any occasion. You could also maybe go for the more budget version, which is the Elizabeth Arden one. They do smell different. I feel like this one does smell a little bit more elevated than the Elizabeth Arden. Having said that, I wore the Elizabeth Arden one as my signature scent for a couple of years. I don't own it anymore though, just because it kind of reminds me of a difficult period in my life. So I tend to not want to wear it. But that one is also fantastic and extremely affordable. So either of these two you could get, I think, as a gift, and it would be well received. Folks, at this point I have to apologise because I thought this was going to be a short video, and as it turns out, it is not a short video. So Future Editing Cherie has made an executive decision to cut this into two parts, being a low budget edition and a higher budget edition with some added options for fragrance gifts other than perfume. So stay tuned for that. And if you liked this video, then please do give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate your support. Thanks very much. I'll see you in the next one.